Here, I want to show you how the Pathfinder panel works, which is a very useful tool for creating shapes out of other shapes. That's frequently how we make shapes in Illustrator. We draw basic shapes and then we merge them or blend them in some way. And the Pathfinder panel is one way to do that. So I'll go to Window and down to Pathfinder to open up the Pathfinder panel. And on my artboard, I've got a red star on top of a gray circle. So I'm going to select both objects and I'll click the first button, which is Add or Unite. And this combines all of the selected objects and merges them into a single shape. And if the objects are different colors, the merged shape takes on the attributes of the topmost object. So you can see how this merged the star and the circle into one shape, and because the red star was on top, that's the color it filled the result with. The next command is the subtract or minus front, and it uses the top object as a kind of cookie cutter to subtract their shape from the bottom object. So because the star was on top, that basically cut out that shape in the gray circle. So it's as if the star were a cookie cutter on top of that gray circle. The next command is intersect, and it deletes everything that does not overlap and combines the rest into a single shape. So there it removed the parts that are not overlapping. The next command is exclude, and that's the opposite of intersect. And it gets rid of everything that does overlap. So it's the opposite of the intersect. Gets rid of everything that does overlap. Divide is a very important command, and it cuts the artwork into separate pieces wherever shapes overlap. And color attributes of the shapes are not changed and such. But after dividing, you can use the direct selection tool to move the pieces around or change their color. And you can see when I use the direct selection tool how these are now individual shapes where they overlap. This is a very, very useful command that we'll be using later. The next command is trim. And that removes the parts of the objects that are overlapping or hidden. So when I select that and choose trim, it really doesn't look like anything has happened. What it's done is remove the part of the gray circle that is behind the red star. The next command is merge. And merge, it merges overlapping objects filled with the same color, regardless of the stacking order. So it doesn't really do too much there. The next command is crop, and it uses the topmost object to crop away everything else. It's sort of like the inverse cookie cutter, and it also removes any strokes that may be on the objects. So the crop is kind of like the opposite of add or unite. The next command is outline. And it does something similar to divide, but it changes everything into line segments. So you can see that each of these segments is now individual. It got rid of the fill, and now the objects are just line segments. And then the last command is minus back, and it does the opposite of the minus front. Anything overlapping and in back of the frontmost object goes away. So that's how that works. So this is just a brief introduction of the Pathfinder panel. It is a very useful panel that I'm sure you'll be using quite often in the future.